So, welcome. I'm going to do a few introductory remarks as you get seated and comfortable with your snacks and your drink and your comfy chair. And feel free to stretch and move and stand up and down. And we have a chat bar that you can open. If you go to the bottom of your screen, there's a little thing that says chat. And I would like to know how many people, is there anyone here who's not in Athens? I'm just curious. Is there anybody not local? Well, I mean, there's lots of people not local, different parts of Georgia. If you want to put in the side chat, let's see, I'm going to account for all of us in Athens. Where are you coming from? Stone Mountain, nice. Oh, San Diego. Welcome, Vicki. Nice. All the way West Coast time. Austin, Texas, Shelby, rock on. Decatur, that's Decatur, Georgia, for those of you outside of Georgia. And good. I'll keep it coming. Tell us where you're from. It's nice to know, or where you're going, or where you've been. Something poetic like Norcross at the moment. I like that, Joel. Very nice. Always moving. In my mind, I'm still traveling to all these wonderful places. Well, I want to say thank you, everyone, for being here, the people that will come and go into the room, and especially to these 11 poets, teacher poets, educator poets who, oh, look, Shanice moving from Athens. The teacher poets who've been in this space, this virtual poetry workshop with me for this very hot and sweaty month of July. So thank you for being here. Normally, the Seat in the Shade poetry series, this is its 8th year. I've had a great honor of welcoming poets from around the region, the state, the region, and the nation. People come far and wide to read for us, and usually it's on the stage of Hendershot's Coffee House and Club on Prince Avenue, which is a wonderful place. If you haven't been there yet, I highly recommend it. They have it's a challenging time for any performance venue, bar, coffee house, as you can imagine, for many reasons. And they are open only now during the day and still selling their great coffee, and also selling the freshest peaches. Georgia peaches are rocking right now. So if you haven't had the best peach of your life, go to Hendershot's and order yourself a bag or one, as I did with my puppy, and dribble it all over your face. It's so good. And I want to thank the black and white young man and somewhere in one of your windows, Ron Braxley, who's been with this Seat in the Shade program every year and records it. And we put it into, let me see if I can grab you. Oh, I know, I can do this. I'll share my screen, and maybe in the meantime, if he's here, he will put the link to it. But, oh wait, no, that's not it. This is it. So he has helped me create this Seat in the Shade poetry series. And you can see that if you missed last Friday with Nicole Brown, and Nicole's there and Jessica here, you can go there now and hear those beautiful poets reading to you. And you can hear Jericho Brown from last year, and Colin Kelly, and Anne Waldman, and just numerous outstanding poets from the region and the world. So please go to that YouTube playlist at your leisure. Misha's Poetry Cast is part of the College of Education podcast series that Ron helps to maintain and develop. Any other comment on that, Ron? Or you want to stay in the shadows?
I'm in the shadows.
In the shadows, right? Rock on. I want to thank the College of Education, who allows me to merge disciplines and be teaching poetry in the context of an education school, and the Department of Language and Literacy Education, who's been nothing other than supportive of merging the social sciences with the humanities and the arts. It's a rich place to be. And thank you all for being here, and you 11 poets who've trusted me with your time. I hope that you feel it's been worthwhile. It sure has been for me. So I'm very grateful. You know, poetry, we were talking about the term epithalamion. How many of you know this term or remember? Ooh, this is a good test. I didn't give my poets the test. What is an epithalamion? Anyone? Oh, unmute yourself, somebody. Epithalamion. You got to be kidding.
Is it the poetry about art, responsive to a piece of art?
No, that is ekphrasis. But that was a good, brave answer. And it gave me the opportunity to say ekphrastic poetry. Yes, I know Aruni knows, but he's not going to say. Epithalamion is a poem in honor of a wedding. It's like the term that you say for a wedding. So, we have these things called occasional poems. You have sometimes some presidents, it happens to be all Democratic presidents, have a poet speak. God, why am I drawing a blank? I'm drawing a blank. Oh, look at this, an ode, very nice. Odes are good too. We've been studying all these wonderful terms. Yes, an ode to a wedding, a celebratory place to acknowledge the joys of our life, whether it's births and new beginnings and weddings, but we also, if you're in a dark moment, maybe some of you know what I'm talking about with the pandemic and movement for justice and peace and for recognition of Black lives and transgender lives and people with disabilities, to recognize disabilities and support disabilities. I mean, there's a lot going on right now in our communities, and we turn to poetry as a salve, a balm, a healing ointment, something that can make us feel like we're not suffering alone. And so I think that you'll hear the ways that each of these poets in this group has been navigating the ups and the downs and trying to create an ensemble of care together. So I wanted to just draw your attention, if you love this event, if all of these poets become all of a sudden successful on Wall Street. I never do this. I'm really bad at this, but I'm going to do this right now. I'm going to share my screen. If you love poetry and you want to support this event, and I have to remember to say this like another time in my life, but I realized that we have this donation place, and you can go into the Language and Literacy Education Fund at the College of Georgia and make a gift and say it's for Seed in the Shade down here. And it will help sustain this poetry series. So do that if you can. And I will try to put that link in the sidebar and try to remember to say it again. Even $5. Usually I try to buy the visiting poets a coffee. It's amazing how shoestring this operation is. And I invite any of you alum of this class, if you want to be on the board with me of this group, to keep it going, to have a dynamic, rich diversity of writers come in the future. I welcome any companionship in this endeavor to make music and poetry in Athens stand out in our town and in the virtual space too. So tonight you're going to hear from 11 poets. Some of these squares are readers. Can I give it up for these readers? Will you applause so people know, and people can applaud you? And if you're a poet, you just do this. They know I'm weird. Thank you. And I think they're going to leave you wanting more of their work. They only have about 5 minutes a person, so they'll just share a selection. Some of us are writing in first languages. Some of us are writing in second languages. Many of these poets are also teaching different languages, Spanish or English as a second language, or to speakers of other languages, or Portuguese or Mandarin. And so you'll see a combination of words. And in order to gift you greater access to their words, we're going to share those poems on a shared screen. And Kate, I want to give the biggest shout out to Kate, who has really raised the bar on my work this summer, helped so much, and been an assistant in this program. So Kate, I guess if you want to bring up that first poem, without further ado, I'm going to introduce our daring first poet, Carrie Bett Duncan. Woo! Give it up for Carrie! Let me tell you a little bit about her. She is graduating this week. Whoa! This is her last class with a specialist degree in TESOL and world language education. She is looking forward to life after graduate school and teaching 4th grade Spanish in a dual language program in Clark County. And with this course, she finishes that degree. Without further ado, give it up for Carrie Bett Duncan! Woo!
Thank you, Misha. My first poem was written in response to Nicole Brown's poetry. We met her last week on Zoom, and she wrote a recent poetry book called To Those Who Were Our First Gods, about the relationship between animals and humans. So the title of this poem is Ode to Animals, Homo sapiens. Communicate with language, text, statistics, and lies. Tell stories in past tenses, scandalize and eulogize. Bury the dead. Eat with spoons, drink with cups instead of hands. Use those hands to heal and steal, pray and slay. Wash them clean. Promote progress when you sit in the same spot you began. Change the weather, melt the ice, and mold the land. Build a home. We're going to do something about this, shouts this generation. Cooperation is the pith and root of civilization. Breathe the air. To doubt and imagine makes us human. I think, therefore I am. Without love and empathy, we are but witness to survival of the fittest. And then my next poem is dedicated to my teachers. I love you and I feel you. Called Up in the Air. Present yourselves in person or start the academic year online. Can we pivot when conditions worsen and attendance is in decline? Students choose the way to be taught. It's less choice than circumstance. Either way, the learning's fraught with problems from a distance. 1 foot in the old, 1 foot in the new. 21st century, not by a long shot. Synchronous technology rendezvous. Find your hotspot in a parking lot. Hybrid school makes its debut on the platform of crisis and confusion. Discussion and feedback déjà vu has led to a pedagogical revolution. I want to teach in the classroom with all the students on my roster. When my instruction's done on Zoom, I'm not a teacher, but an imposter. Grieving the in-person habits of teaching, both here and gone, like an optical illusion. Accommodating this new way of reaching, digital learning, now a foregone conclusion. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to introduce our next poet, my friend Nicolette Frank. She's a PhD student at UGA. She's also a Forest kindergarten educator and a former poker dealer. After she graduates, she plans to return out west to teach, make art, write, and commune with nature.
Thank you, Carrie, for those wonderful poems and that fabulous introduction. I'm Nicolette Frank. My first poem was a perfect storm, I'd say, between a conversation and an invitation from Misha on how to say the long goodbye, an Alzheimer's ode. Thank God for jokes, for New Balance shuffles on wide planked oak. Thank God for pillboxes, for fountainhead scribbles on blue Post-it notes. Thank God for phone lines, for overtime, for praying dogs and breaking news. Thank God for afternoons, for prickly cheek kisses overlooking the Pacific. Thank God for whistling, for Michael. Are you listening? Thank God for in and out milkshakes, for Chevy S10s and traffic on Highway 101 again. Thank God for baseball, for eye rolls. Mothers and daughters, thank God for steady hands, for stone six-packs and jars of sea glass. Thank God for curious dreams, for stubborn routines, and the pendulum bob of a long case clock. Thank you. My next couple poems go together. Those of you who are cat fans or minions out there will hopefully appreciate these and possibly a little bit more than those who are not so connected with cats. Tabby submarine, twitching periscope, emerge, above the quilted horizon, sonar technology, alert, mounted at the head, breach the surface, focus, curious engine rumbling, target acquired, patience, steady, aim, fire. And my last poem for this evening, or afternoon for some of you, Cat Lady at 5:19 a.m. She doesn't need open eyes to know he's there, waiting. He takes a regal stance, unwavering gaze, then glance, across the woven landscape. He nudges a spiraled pipe cleaner, bowing at her opposable paws. He waits for her to roll from left to right and notice his plea for her hazy reach to closest curve. Toss. She collects 37 more seconds of sleep. Thank you. And I have the pleasure of introducing Nadrika Morris, who is a mother of two and an English language learner teacher in Gwinnett County, in addition to being a fabulous poet. Take it away, Nadrika.
Thank you, Nicolette. Today I'll be reading my first poem, Putting My 3-Year-Old Son to Bed After His Third Tantrum. Succumb to exhaustion, I collapse in the bed. Mentally, physically, I gave all that I had. How could this be our truth? Did he let this happen? So innocent and pure, but boy, what a challenge. Afraid to close my eyes, I stare deeply in yours. Present, yet so absent, your brain again explored. What do you long to say? What could you be thinking? Never an eye contact. I doubt you're even listening. Escape into your world and it all makes sense. Intelligent, affectionate, heightened your every sense. Do you feel acknowledged? My next poem is something that we're dealing with right now with Black Lives Matter, and it's called I've Been Trying to Convince Myself Lately That There Are Good White People who don't celebrate the deaths of Black rioters amid the Black Lives Matter protests. I've been trying to convince myself that my white neighbor who celebrates the death of a Black rioter during the Black Lives Matter protests at the hand of a store owner and begs for more deaths doesn't want to see his country destroyed. That my childhood best friend's dad, who unhesitatingly took me in for weeks when I had problems with my parents, only questioned the death of George Floyd and then Black Lives Matter and the existence of police brutality and racial injustices and the need for equality, and because he desires to learn more. And that the woman who watched me the entire time as I took a walk with my children through the neighborhood was only reminiscing about her own children. I really need to believe that the neighbors who decided to line their sidewalks with small American flags have done so every year around this time, and that there is no other message behind it. Thank you. I have the honor and pleasure in introducing my colleague, Shelby Jones. She is a Spanish teacher in Athens, Clarke County with a passion for world languages. Shelby is also a graduate student working on her master's in ESOL certification.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much for that introduction, and thank you for your poems as well. And to keep with the idea of racial injustice, I will be reading How to Be Mixed, How to Choose a Side. Take a couple of antithetical ancestry, sprinkle in a dash of disdain and prejudice, mix in a bushel of curly, wavy brown hair, had a set of light pink gums, a dollop of a brown nose, full mauve lips, and soft, strong hips. There, you've made it. The mix kid. Now, make it choose. Which culture will it abide by? Will it sound white? Will it lay its edges? Will it perm away all of that natural feature in order to fit in? Make it choose. Oh, wait. Everyone sees it as anything but black and white anyways. Everyone sees it as black anyways. Are you Hawaiian, Filipina, Mexican? Your parents are lying to you, because I definitely know better than you. Let your white grandmother tell you that you can't forget your Confederate great-great-great, and your black grandma tell you that you can't forget your driver's license because of that time your uncle... Is this why I exist? To choose one group over the other? Am I only a symbol of a union? I don't want to choose. So how do I please everyone? Do I need to please everyone? Is there a way to please both sides? I think I'll choose myself and give in to this insane, radical desire to approve of me. All right, and then this next one is called Existence. So, how do you think God feels when we emulate our perception of him? How is this life meant to be lived? Am I doing this right? Instead of questioning this existence, should I just live out every waking minute? How do I fill my days? An ignorant bliss or a struggle for what exactly? There's that nagging feeling of dreading being. Does it matter how I do it? Does it matter how I get there? Does the end justify the means? All right. And next, we have Joel Robinson. Joel is a Spanish teacher, a father of 4, and you wouldn't believe it, but an enthusiastic juggler. Please give it up for Joel.
Thank you, Shelby. This first poem was inspired by one of my classmates, Jackson Forstall, when he wrote about his grandfather. It's titled Inheritance. My father knows all about this stuff, lineages and history and who and where and when. Every time we travel through the desert, he hesitates to tell me the stories, not wanting to bore me, sure that I've already heard it. Every time I am amazed. I've never heard these stories before. My 3 greats-grandfather was the first railroad conductor in the world, a job he left to cross the pond. I've seen his pocket watch in a museum, missing the information that would make it great. I've stood at his headstone, dwarfed by its size. His son was known for his singing voice. He and his 3rd wife sang duets until tuberculosis took her. When the mob gathered in '57, he couldn't support their choice. Unable to stop them, he left to sell hay in Mexico. His grandson, my granddad, must be where I inherited my own temperament, my balance. He was difficult to phase. I was entranced as he read a hymnal in church during the sermon, only to realize he slept, turning pages when he woke. A contrast to stories from his youth. Branding calves on the plateau, riding one to show off for grandma while they were still dating. Or that he herded sheep with a sling, bouncing stones from boulders to startle the sheep to the left or right. Or tying a hand to the saddle so he could sleep late at night while the horse found its own way home. Sometimes I wish I could go, get that museumed pocket watch. I know more about it than they do at the museum, but I feel I've received more than that. I hear the stories every time I am amazed. The next poem, I have to take just a minute and talk briefly about. I originally wrote this in stanzas of 6 lines, and our professor, Dr. Comden Taylor, pointed out that there is a form called the sestina that uses a particular structure of repeating the final word of each line in every stanza in a different order, and having a last stanza that repeats 2 of those end words in each line of the final stanza. And I took that as a challenge, and so I completely restructured the poem, and this is the result. This is a sestina. It's called Permission. In retirement homes, nurses know, because they see, it's their work, that when living is work and it's time to leave, patients do not wander. They are not lost. They choose the time, the path to go down, looking for one last time with the living again. It was time to go to the hospital again. It was our first, so much we didn't know. We packed a bag and headed down. Once her labor was done, we'd start the work. A baby girl to feed, sleep to be lost. Mom only asked to see our second before she had to leave. So we packed to leave. We didn't realize she was sick again. Cancer and already so much family lost. She didn't let us know. And we went back about our work without the urgency to go back down. Then a second time for a birth to go down, to pack an overnight bag and leave. For her to labor, for me to work, to bring a child to the world again. This is a work that now we did know, a baby boy to feed, more sleep to be lost. A week later, the phone rang, no time to be lost. We packed some things and headed down to hospice for her to see him and know. Eyes clear, she saw him, but then chose to leave. When the phone rang again, she had completed her work. In time, we all went back to work, mourning what we thought we lost, remembering her request again. I sat down. We gave her leave. We didn't know. What we have lost, we might not know. We'll pack again and choose to leave and do the work of our own path to go down. It's now my pleasure to introduce to you Becca. Becca List is an ESOL teacher in Dalton, Georgia. She loves CrossFit, travel, eating watermelon in the summer, and, of course, poetry. Becca?
Hi, thanks so much, Joel. All right, my first poem the inspiration came from a moment when I was teaching first grade in Dalton, Georgia. And I looked at my students and they were all Mexican and Guatemalan immigrants or children of immigrants, and I just wanted more for them. First grade read alouds. 11:30, gathered around the rug, I read you stories. Some about curious kids or adventurous or shy ones. Others about land and sea creatures. And more about powerful white men from the past. I look into your deep eyes that some of you draw with black crayon. Your ears are perked and skin the tones of warm honey, toffee, espresso. Why don't I read to you too about the Mendez family in 1946, luchando por igualdad educativo. Cesar and Dolores por los derechos humanos on the farms. Coral Way Elementary in Miami, aprender en español se vale también. Signs etched, no dogs are Mexicans, or Mexican Mondays at public schools, drained and bleached before white patrons splashed, being taught cleaning and farming, not reading or math, in broken down escuelitas in cow pastures, solo pasitos from proper white schools. Felicitas told her daughter Sylvia, tear-filled and tired from feeling other and less. We were fighting because you're equal to that white boy. There is still a lucha for your brown lives. Would you like to read more about imaginary kids, their travels and treasures? Would you like to read about bravery from all hues of heroes? All right. And my next poem is kind of a mix of, a lot of us kind of played with writing a COVID poem and then also an ode, and here's what I came up with. On Fridays, we Zoom to talk about anything but Corona. We met in Mexico City, where they all still live with their Mexican husbands and multicultural children, teaching the wealthiest 0.1%. Had I stayed, my life would be gathering with gold friends, even Quincena Fridays, shopping at local mercados, arm balancing on rooftops, snatching triathlon podiums in Ixtapa and Cozumel. Last Friday, my question was to choose. Would you rather have a job you love but retire in 30 years, or retire from a job you hate in 10? Sometimes, not today, I really have to think about what I want to say. Easy, the first. Teaching immigrant 5-year-olds to adore literacy and communicate in English is the best. The patient silence broke when Di admitted, "Wow, I wish I knew what that was like." With a full heart, I chose to leave badass expat friends, tropical weekend adventures, newness of urban busy. My life is now more barbecue picnic date nights than viernes de pozole. But smiling, I can say, onward, upward, always. And my final poem is, something I've learned about poetry, I think a lot of my classmates have as well, is most of the time it takes a lot to come to a final or finished product. And this poem is still not finished, and it's still a work in progress, but I like what I have going here, and so that's why I want to share it with you. All right. Oh, and in this poem, there is an epigraph from our instructor, from one of her published poems from her book, Imperfect Tense. All right, so here goes. What we throw out. We throw out words and television sets in this country, after Misha Conman-Taylor's Georgia Horizontal. We throw out half-eaten biscuits, nibbled by bow-haired girls. We throw out friendships pecked by denied comparison and too much wine. We throw out confidence when we scroll and overlook golden hour and digital airbrush. We throw out conversations for screens, a job that doesn't pay. We throw out mattresses long after we wake up with lower back pain. We throw out compassion for fewer minutes waiting in line. We throw out financial freedom tips to purchase trendy thrills. We throw out white picket fences for graduate degrees. We throw out joy for 2 monitors and expensive office chairs. We throw out masks. They're uncomfortable and unconstitutional. All right, so that concludes my selection of poems. I'd like to now introduce my classmate, Jackson Forrestal. He's a Spanish teacher in Gwinnett County, finishing his master's. In his spare time, he likes to swim, brush up on his Portuguese, and read mystery novels. So let's hear from Jackson now.
Thank you, Becca. So both of my poems kind of deal with this idea of translanguaging. So I wanted to kind of mess with my identity and, talk to these different languages that I know in my heart. So the first one is titled How to Speak Portuñol. Slur your Spanish. Sound borracho. Now you're speaking Portuguese. At home, you say, yo pienso que. Your Brazilian neighbor must also use pensar. Confident. You say, a minha cidade é mais grande, but her eyes dissent. Through pursed lips, she repairs your words. In Portuguese, we say maior. But maior is not tamaño. It is your older sister, grown up, adulta. Still, confused. Me equivoqué? Can she not understand me? Refuse to accept that the 2 languages are different. Continue speaking your heavily accented Portuñol, hoping that someone will get the gist. After all, why should you speak Portuguese? So the next one, for most people that probably don't know what language this is Irish Gaelic. I don't actually speak Irish fluently, but it was a language very important to my grandfather, so I kind of dedicate this to him. Slán Sometimes I listen to the last voicemail you left me. Why does hearing that I love you hurt? You want to know how work went today. Did the lesson go well? How am I holding up? I miss our lunches, impromptu dinners. Do you still make pasta? I wish I kept the recipe. Discolored memories, old home movies. I can hear your laugh. Is that what you sounded like? Forgotten traditions, far, frozen, sunk in old memory. You asked me to read to you. Broken, mispronounced words in a language I know but do not speak. I sing to you in our ancestors' tongue. Ochre notes of home now gone, careful ashlings plead for a peaceful trance. Tamshim Holach, and don't waken me. Perhaps you walked to that land off the western sea, filled with evergreens and immortality. I remember your stories of Tirnanok, rolling, green hills, water-soaked soil, curve of river Boyne. Is it beautiful? Thank you so much. So I have the pleasure of introducing my classmate, Wei Li. Wei is a PhD student in language and literacy education, as well as a Chinese language instructor of record at UGA. Before coming to the before coming to the US, not us, the US, he was an ESOL instructor in Taiwan. So, Wei.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to present 2 poems to you. And the first poem was inspired by Jericho Brown's poems about racism. So I decided to address the incidents which happened in my first semester in the States. Chicken's resistance against a hoax clutch. When did you start to pick up American Daily English? In July 2011, when I learned the derivative meaning of chicken from my American friends. Someone who is not brave or afraid to do something. I also learned from them that the yellow-skinned, including me, are like chickens. Unlike a chicken, not only because of the yellow skin color, but also because of the assumption that the yellow-skinned are submissive as a chicken, which dares not fight against the slaughter. Are chickens always submissive? I would say no. A chicken can fight when he encounters injustice. For example, in my first semester in the US, I went to a glasses store for washing my eyeglasses. A white hawk clerk broke them without telling the chicken what happened until the chicken answered her question. Where did you buy the eyeglasses? Taiwan. Swooping down in an attempt to clutch the chicken, the white hawk yelled, "You bought them in Taiwan, so we are not responsible for that. You should send them back to Taiwan for repair." Picking the white hawk's eyes, the chicken refuted, "I bought them in Taiwan, but they were broken in your hands. You should be responsible for that." The white hawk left speechless, asking her colleague to give the chicken a form to fill in for compensation. What did the chicken learn from his first confrontation with the sneak rat? With the broken eyeglasses in his curved claws, the chicken learns a lesson of how to shield himself from steel hunters in the urban jungle. That is, speak for yourself, fight for yourself. Don't be a cowardly chicken, be a courageous chicken, despite your yellow-skinned appearance. Thank you, and the second poem was inspired by Nico Brown's animal poems. I missed my dog back in Taiwan very much, so I decided to address the first encounter with her. Qingqing, the selfless mother. We are told a devoted mother is selfless towards her children. I came across such a mother who seemed to get stray without a home to go. Her face is exquisite, with natural eyeliners and plenty of looks on her face, winking at me with sorrow. She seemed to ask help from me. A surge of pity submerged me. I gave her a bowl of cooked rice, and she barked to express thanks. Wagging her curly tail, she took me to see her babies, who were in a secret dry ditch at elementary school, hinting I give her more food for her babies. Her babies beat her nipples to suck milk, and she only shivered, enduring pains, without none of resistance, only with overflows of care. What a selfless mother, Moved by her maternal love, I decided to offer a home to her and her babies, naming her Qing Qing, which means kiss kiss, an example of reduplication of Chinese verbs. She was good at kissing her babies' furry cheeks, feeding them with her milk, appeasing them like a mother sings lullabies to her child. She taught me what motherhood really means. And in the end, I pasted a pic of Qing Qing. It was shot when she was 15, and now she is already 18, and she's still very healthy, and she can jump and play with me, but now she's back in Taiwan. Yeah, that's why I wrote this poem to express my emotions. And that's it. Thank you. And now, now I'm honored and happy to introduce my classmate, Meredith White. She is a fourth generation teacher and a fourth degree UGS student, passionate about teaching and travel. All of this mean that she will forever be broke.
It's true. I will forever be broke. I'm going to read two poems that were both inspired by kind of the inner conversations sometimes we have with ourselves, or the reflections that tend to keep me up at night, depending. The first one is called Insecurity Always Stays the Night. Who's there? I call, but I already know. The door slams and your gate, wide and ogreish, is unmistakable. It's always you. Clamoring by, you ignore my sigh. Can't you see I'm right in the middle of something? Flames flicker across your face as you get comfortable by the fire. You're here to stay. You always are. Your voice is deafening. Praise, you sneer. Oh, shut up. That award, give me a break. They just don't know that you're an imposter. The words, sour, wet, and thick, go everywhere. I nod and mop up the mess. Eventually you leave, quietly, coolly, unlike your entrance, without fanfare. You always do. Finally, relief, respite, rest. The air in the walls don't feel like they're caving in. But I stoke the fire with an eye on the door. It's easiest to expect and accommodate you. You always return. The second one is called Daughters Don't Come with Instructions. The emotions in the air are heavy like your mother. Please take care of yourself. Don't let yourself go like she has. You, my shadowy second son, the daughter who turned out just like me. Talkative, evocative, provocative, positive, optative, demonstrative, ambitious, frictious, unintentionally vicious. Eager to make funny, but too sensitive to make fun. Genes prefer to regift. I raised you with pretend and pretense. No, of course I didn't smoke pot in the 60s. To defend and play defense. Well, your brother can't get pregnant. As father and daughter, we are tightly wound and forever bound. I don't want to talk about it. Yet somehow, in misunderstanding you, don't come to me with your problems. I now better know myself. I'm sorry, but that was my best. Can we move past the rest? A parent has never been prouder. My cheers will only grow louder. Daughters don't come with instructions. Thank you so much. I am now super excited to introduce Juicy Avitia, who is an ESOL teacher in DeKalb County School District, and she's working on her specialist degree in TESOL, World Languages. Juicy.
Thank you. Thank you, Meredith. This first, it's an ABC Darien poem, was inspired by my experience in a school setting where I completed my student teaching under a mentor teacher, whom I quickly termed to be a teacher without a calling. So this poem is titled, The ABCs of a Teacher Without a Calling. Argued, why does school have to start so early? Belittled hugs, I don't know you, don't touch me, leave me alone. Calcified heart, disciplined these brats who dared to disobey, established boundaries, preventing any form of kindness, fought for another classroom that didn't stink of PE sweat, gravitated to the back of the padlocked desk drawer. Harassed is how she felt. Who do they think I am? Some miracle worker? Impregnated with thoughts of dropping ungraded papers in the trash, jubilated by each day's end at 3, kicked herself in the ass after math. Why bother explaining such trivial things? Languished after language arts. So illiterate, half-fluent idiots mistreated the good-for-nothing custodian. Where's my pen? Did you take my pen? Neglected to tell the principal she needed next Monday off. Overreacted when asked to clarify her lesson. Students petrified at her shrieks. Listen, pay attention. Why do I have to repeat myself? Quibbled during lunch. Be quiet. Eat all the crap on your plate. Refused to eat it herself. Hates cafeteria food even more than she hates the kids. Sabotaged recess. They don't deserve to have fun. Tormented at the thought of spending more time than she must. Uttered words of indecency. Vandalized kid-made welcome back cards in the teacher's lounge. Whispered an unheard prayer. God, what am I doing here? Xeroxed her letter of resignation. Tore it up. Yanked the heavy double doors open. Zigzagged herself out of the parking lot, second-guessing a paycheck. I'll be back tomorrow. This next Villanelle poem was inspired by, you guessed it, what the whole world has been talking about as of late, COVID. And it's named COVID. Invisible round with 3-sided red thorns, ES and M proteins on my crust adorned, visible only by the telescope of those who would search out my death. Floating and hunting for a home while midair, joining with wet microbes of hellos and goodbyes over kisses and hugs from loved ones unaware. Protesters gathered shouting, I can't breathe. Later on the gurney, gasp, I can't breathe, pleading for ventilated relief. Chatting without distance, lacking disinfected hands, bare, naked mouths and exposed snouts. Agnostics partied defined official demands of those who are longing for my death. The young kiss elders through distance and glass, 6 feet, 8 feet, 12 feet, with uncertainty prescribed. I am misunderstood, yet I continue to amass. In churches, schools silenced like closed books. Pupils and parents sequestered in their homes. Leaders urging their return against the wishes of those who desire my death. Inhaled into the bodies of the young and old, I ravage the once vigorous and equally bold, selecting those most infirmed. My prey stroll to the other side, alone, only to return as memory and eulogy song. I shall remain until the Nobel Prize is won by the one who would cause my death. Now I would like to introduce Amelia Wheeler, who is a former high school teacher, history teacher, and a current PhD student of education. In her spare time, she enjoys yoga, hiking, and contemplating why so many social studies teachers are coaches. Amelia.
Hi, y'all. My name's Amelia. It's an honor to share this space with you. And it's really cool that I get to be the last poet of the night, because what I've heard throughout tonight is poems about COVID, like Juicy referenced, I've heard poems about the racial injustice that's surging through our country and kind of bringing to the fore. And I've also heard a lot of poems about teachers. And so this poem is for the teachers and specifically my women teachers. So it is called "The Revolution Will Not Be Bureaucratized," and it is a take on the very famous spoken word poem by Jill Scott Heron, "The Revolution Will Not Be Televised." You must fight for your right to work at home, sisters. You must evaluate those who evaluate you. You must show them what grit, growth mindset, and higher order thinking skills really mean, because the revolution will not be bureaucratized. The revolution will not be bureaucratized. The revolution will not be brought to you by reopenings in 3 phases without interrupting instruction. The revolution will not show you a post of Trump waving his budget and leading a charge with Nancy DeVos, Brian Kemp, and the CDC to force you to resume face-to-face instruction this fall. The revolution will not be bureaucratized. The revolution will not be brought to you by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. It will not star Michelle Rhee and Ruby Payne or Miss G from Freedom Riders. The revolution will not be brought from Edgenuity. The revolution will not master the standards. The revolution will not force you to teach virtually from your classrooms, because the revolutions will not be bureaucratized, sisters. There will be no policies for you and Florida teachers that turn your classrooms into the petri dishes of the nation and make you so essential you are essentially expendable. Aggressive remediation will not be able to make up for the 138 days of miscommunication. The revolution will not be bureaucratized. There will be no headlines about Winder schools refusing masks. There will be no headlines about the Winder schools refusing masks. There will be no headlines about Governor Ron DeSantis equating your craft with a McDonald's Happy Meal. There will be no fear of retaliation for the members of the American Federation of Teachers who have planned a general strike for this occasion. Being gaslit into just doing it for the kids will no longer be so damn convincing, and women will not care if their admins call them a bitch, because teachers will finally have a seat at the table. The revolution will not be bureaucratized. There will be no highlights in the board briefs, and there will be no advice from mealy-mouthed educationalists on Rush Limbaugh's radio show program. Our manifesto will not be written by John Dewey, nor published by Scholastic, Pearson, Rutledge, McGraw-Hill, or Rand McNally. The revolution will not be bureaucratized. The revolution will not be on hold while they reconsider whether to reopen, re-educate, or recapitulate. You will not have to worry about a hole in your mask or a cough in your face. The revolution will not be data-driven. The revolution will not differentiate based on Lexile scores. The revolution will put you in the driver's seat. The revolution will not be bureaucratized, will not be bureaucratized, will not be bureaucratized, will not be bureaucratized. The revolution will be no state policy, sisters, because the revolution is ours. Thank you. And like as Juicy mentioned, I'm a current PhD student. But I used to be in the classroom. I taught economics, I taught history. And when people ask me what that time in my life was like, what I say is what I remember most about teaching is being hot and the recurrent nightmares of my students being shot. We had these damn wall units, and they never really worked as they ought. But whenever I asked, they said the board's budget was not enough to fix the AC, achievement gaps, or welfare traps. But my sweat stains for all my students to see and laugh distracted them from all those graphs to illustrate the ways that resources are allocated in a confusing maze, turning property taxes into policy axes that hack society into racialized classes. So warm-ups turned into meltdowns while resource officers made their rounds. And I wondered where his budget was found when I didn't have the grounds to ask for textbooks that weren't bound by duct tape or to buy resources not filled with white supremacist hate. If it's a race to the top, there's no time to debate who we should hold accountable for the failings of the state. Yes, thank you. And I just want to send so much love and respect and adoration to the teachers out there doing the good fight for our kids. So just thank you. And I also really want to thank our amazing professor, Dr. Melissa Conman-Taylor. She goes by Misha. She's the one who brought us together to give us this amazing creative space. So really quick, classmates, can we just give it up for Misha and just say, like, thank you so much for doing this, especially in COVID. Yeah, it was a really amazing experience. And Misha is a professor of language and literacy education at the University of Georgia. She also serves as the rotating chair for the TESOL and World Language Education Program. She has a really great blog called Teachers Act Up, and you can see some of the books she's written, her poems. She's had too many articles to count on there. And she also has a book of poetry available right now called Imperfect Tense, published by White Point Press. And for a mere $15, it can be yours. And you have this amazing exclusive opportunity because Misha will actually sign it for you if you can connect with her. Misha's also the mom of 2 middle school children. She's a wife to Bernie Harris middle school teacher Jason Taylor. And her current hobbies are finding fruiting fig trees from which to pick and learning how to care and love for her new rescue dog, Bagel.
Oh, thank you. Oh my God. You guys are so amazing. What an awesome summer I had with you. And, you know, many times when I teach this class, I send my beautiful children and my wonderful husband away, and I steal time to just be a poet, even if it's just for the time span of this summer class. And as you know, this year that did not happen. We had children and animals entering the screen in various times. And it's hard to be managing being a parent, a scholar, and an artist at the same time and trying to give time to each of those. So I'm going to share with you 3 poems, 2 new ones, and 1 from the book. This first poem here, I just wrote it recently. It was inspired at Rosh Hashanah, which is the holy time of year in the fall. It's the Jewish New Year. And every year we tell the story of Isaac and Abraham, of Abraham going to sacrifice Isaac. And it really bothered me, particularly last year. And I was just connecting all these parts of myself. So I'm going to put on my best Julia Childs accent with the mixture of things. I'm not sure this is done, but I got an email today that this poem will be published in Phi Kappa in October. So I'm excited to have a publication happen while I'm teaching this class. Yeah. The Artist's Sacrifice. I think careful cooking is love, don't you? Julia Child. Isaac's not mentioned, once replaced by the ram, only his sparing. Not 1 ounce of disappointment, not 1 question about an unfit parent, only people singing. Show me how we prevent fathers from sacrificing children to honor gods with offerings. Show me a mother who wouldn't bind babies to a stranger to recover an hour over the fire alone. The card-carrying carnivore, Julia Childs, just one, whose sacrifice, hers to beef bourguignon, was childlessness. My son and daughter, bound to rock-like seats in the sanctuary, augur their own dismay. To feel God in my hands, what wouldn't I give away? So that's the first poem. I'm not sure how I feel about it yet, but I'll share that with you. This next poem is a poem that just came out in Poet Lore. I had someone ask me this question, if I really was that Jewish. And it's hard to know how Jewish I am. It's a weird status to have in the United States for many reasons at this historic moment. But that question triggered for me a kind of list poem. We've talked about list poems and anaphora and letting your subconscious just kind of move. So am I really that Jewish? I'm melting like the last of the Goldbergs. I'm married to a gentle Gentile putting up Christmas lights, humming, die, 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 with bacon in my mouth. Bemet, truth. If by Jewish you mean as gefilte fish after the second wine cup, or as zaftig as the bowls in your soup, then ken, nachon, gay gesunter hate. I'm as Jewish as a shtetl of desserts on a bar mitzvah tray. Exploding as forgotten challah dough in the refrigerator. I've toured more Catholic churches than most Marys, so when I write Jewish, I do it in English. I bargain for it, 2 for 1. I complain, too hot soup, then ask for a discount with ice cubes. I'd say yes, but have you spoken to my dead grandmother? She'd say I forgot to kiss the mezuzah, how I grabbed handfuls of tortilla chips on Passover. Leavened, unleavened, what's the big difference if we're all eating crackers, new? One of me stockings like yeshiva wives, ankles the color of mud, boiling chickens until scum rises, changing 10 babies' diapers. One of me snaps Scotch tape to wrap Christmas presents. Easy to avoid this question if you live in Manhattan, but I'm the northern spotted owl of Jews in Georgia. I remember my uncle's funeral in one of those cold cities where everyone clucks oi. Only the hired rabbi knew the Hebrew morning prayer. Not that I don't itch a little in those foreign words, but I'm shoving my children's heads into them as if Hebrew school were one long turtleneck sweater. I'm worried about us. I'm worried about how cool it is to be nothing, to ride on the long elevator ascent to nihilism without anything to nosh on. I'm that level of Jew, cousin to worry, stuffing mince in my pocket. I'm a hora dancing orphan of faith, or I'm a whoring prancer on a date on a lake. I'm a sound-alike, a wannabe, and almost was a heresy. That much I can say. So then I'll read one last poem from this book, and I'm reading it inspired by Joel and his work on a sestina. And this is my sestina to share with you. And I share it because it was written in the context of my own writing group. And, you know, once you graduate from being a student of poetry, you never graduate, you're always a student of poetry. And I'm always hungry for poetry writing groups to be with others who can help me make my poems better, tell me what they're seeing, the same things we've been doing in class. And I wrote a poem after I'd come back from Yogaville, which is an ashram in Virginia, where everything has ville. So there's like, I don't know, all these cities with ville at the end. And so the Swami who started it named it Yogaville. So I was writing a lot about the guru, and my workshop mate said to take the guru out. And I didn't want to. So instead I put him in a sestina where he could come back 7 times. So that's what I did with it. So, you know, be a rebel. I tell them 50% of everything I've said about your poems is wrong. So this is my work on that. Workshop advice, take the guru out. He's too hocus pocus for an American poem. Orange cloth, brown flesh. Another continent enters the room when he's there. Part naked, crystal eyes, white hair, encircled by women who eat brewer's yeast for breakfast. No, the guru has to go. To east, the peaceful guru, a repotted banana plant in American soil. Choose a financial planner, a woman rabbi, anything but his bald patience smothering the line. He hovers like a flock of white birds over lovers on the coast, their picnic lunch of fried chicken lying there, hopelessly exposed. Just the sound of it, guru, sounds too frou-frou, archaic, a white lie for what you really want in American art. Chinese takeout glare, sidewalks smothered in butts, chewed gum. Hairy women hang his picture by the birthing bed. Women who pray in private or chant their musty breath in airport entourage. Mothers with babies in arms begging the dead guru to bless them. Inject India in American souls. A replica Swami hangs on white walls in the ashram next to black and white portraits. Mother Teresa, the only woman. Martin Luther King, the only American. His hippy-dippy image belongs there, not in your poem. Kudzu and gurus, aurora borealis scarves and grandmothers, big no-nos. Americans make ourselves other holy figures. They're invisible, or male and white. Girl, here's our advice. Lose the guru. Woo! Party! Oh my gosh. Class dismissed.